For a better understanding of the Sermon on the Mount, it is good to know something about the context of the sermon. During the time of Jesus, there were two major religious sects of people among the Jews. They were Sadducees and Pharisees. Gospels refer often to the Sadducees and Pharisees as Jesus was in constant conflict with them. There are many similarities between the two groups, but there were important differences between them as well. The Sadducees during the time of Christ and the New Testament era were aristocrats. They did not relate well to the common man, nor did the common man hold them in high opinion. Religiously, the Sadducees were more conservative in one main area of the doctrine. The Sadducees considered only the written law to be from God. They rejected any authority of the oral tradition. The Sadducees preserved the authority of the written word of God, especially the book of Moses, Genesis through Deuteronomy. They denied God's involvement in everyday life. They did not believe in resurrection of the dead. They denied any afterlife, holding that the soul perished at death and therefore denying any penalty or reward after the earthly life. They did not believe in the existence of a spiritual world where there is angels or demons. Pharisees was a religious society frequently mentioned in the New Testament. This group included chiefly of poor priests and laymen. It was a movement toward religious Puritanism. The Pharisees were held in much higher esteem by the common man. Jesus had his ministry mainly among the common people. This brought him into continual conflict with the Pharisees. They accepted the written word of God as inspired by God, but they also gave equal authority to Jewish oral tradition and attempted to defend this position by saying it went all the way to Moses. It is believed by the conservative Jews that God on the Mount of Sinai gave Moses the written law during the day and the oral law during the night. Written laws were written down while the oral laws were transmitted orally from Moses to Joshua and so on. Oral laws further explains the meaning and intentions of the written law. They believed that without the oral law or oral tradition, we cannot understand or practice the written law as intended by God. Pharisees sought to strictly obey these traditions along with the Old Testament. They believed that God controls all things, yet allowed that decisions made by individuals also affect life's course. They believed in the resurrection of the dead. They believed in an afterlife with appropriate reward and punishment on an individual basis. They believed in the existence of angels and demons. The attitude of Jesus towards the Pharisees is important for us when we study the Sermon on the Mount. The sermon offers an alternative faith and practice to the Pharisaic interpretation of the law of Moses. The Pharisees were the keepers of the Mosaic law or the Torah. They believed that having guardianship of this law was proof that they were God's chosen people to whom the Messiah would come. They believed that the Messiah would be an earthly king, a son of David whom God would rise up. He would establish an earthly kingdom, freeing them from Roman rule. They also believed that in order to remain in favor with God, the keeping of the Torah was essential. The basic of Pharisees' conception of religion was the belief that the Babylonian exile was caused by Israel's failure to keep the Torah or the Mosaic law, and that its keeping was an individual as well as a national duty. Because of this, they were trying to protect the Mosaic law with precepts so as to make its violation almost impossible. They also added to these laws and precepts customs which had handed down through the years. They took these precepts to such extremes that the original intent of the written law was often lost. Laws and traditions they had brought in to protect and raise the standard of the Mosaic law actually lowered the purpose of the law and made the laws to no effect. To the Pharisee, keeping the written and the oral law was everything. The condition of a person's heart towards God was unimportant. Because of their strict adherence to Levitical laws of purity, they kept themselves separate from Gentile sinners for fear of being defiled. The Pharisees placed great importance on temple worship, but they had no personal relationship with God. Their worship was merely formal religious observance. The strict observance of the written and oral law and formal religion, while paying no attention to the motives of the heart, led to self righteousness and hypocrisy. Throughout his ministry, Jesus was openly opposed to the Pharisees. He denounced them publicly for their hypocrisy, spiritual blindness, and evil ways. The law was intended to enable the Israelites to live righteous lives. But the Pharisees had corrupted the law. Disregarding any ethical considerations and being devoid of mercy, they imposed an intolerable burden of legal observance upon the common people. Life for the Jews became slavery to the legal precepts invented by the experts of the law. Jesus condemned the Pharisees for being careful to appear righteous on the outside while inside they were full of greed and wickedness. So, on many occasions, Jesus made reference to his divinity and asserted his authority over the Pharisees.